What's up everybody, welcome back to a new video. Today will be episode 3 of building budget gaming PCs for a profit. Now let's get into building. In today's episode, we sold a PC. The PC we sold was in the previous episode, which we will be getting more in details within the video. And also we did build a new PC today, a full white gaming PC. Starting with the unboxing of the case. So we got a white Thermaltake View 170 TG ARGB, which has 3 ARGB fans built into it. Introducing the graphics card. It is an EVGA GeForce GTX 1660 Super with 6GB of VRAM, which we have previously in another video painted this. Now we'll be moving on to the unboxing. Starting with the motherboard, we'll be unboxing. The motherboard for this build is an A320M. Bring in the CPU. As for the CPU for today's build, is a Ryzen 5 2600. Moving on to the RAM sticks. The RAM sticks are a kit of two 8GB of 3200 MHz RAM. We'll be moving on to unboxing the NVMe for the build. The NVMe is a Kingston 1TB drive. Moving on to the power supply of the build. So the power supply for this build is a Thermaltake Light Power RGB 550 watts, which 550 watts is plenty for this build. Moving on to the cooler of the build, which is an AIO. The cooler for the build is a Thermaltake Aqua Elite 240 white ARGB, which has 2 ARGB fans pre-installed for us. Since this build didn't come with an ARGB hub, we decided to purchase one. To clean up the look a bit, we decided to go with the full white cable extensions. Now that we've completed all the unboxing of the new parts, we'll be moving on to the RAM sticks, which, as you can see, won't really suit with the build. Will still look really good in the build, but we have decided we're going to be painting these, which won't be in this video. It will be a dedicated video to this RAM sticks. So in the next clip, they will be ready in white, and then we'll be moving on to assembling the build. Now that we came back from painting the RAM sticks, now we'll be moving on to the motherboard assembly. As you can see, they have turned out pretty good. Kept the label, so it just shows what the specs are of the RAM stick. Move these guys on the side, getting the motherboard, bringing in the motherboard, opening up the CPU slot. So the motherboard is a A320. Moving on to the CPU, it's an AMD Ryzen 5 2600. All the prices will be towards the end of the video once the build is completed, following the gold arrow and then the arrow on the motherboard. As you can see, I discovered a couple of bent pins here which was received in the package. What we're going to be trying to fix it, bringing in my handy blade. Now that I think pins as best as possible. Now that we fixed the CPU pins, you can see that the CPU isn't going anywhere when you do the shake. So now you can just lock it in. So now that the CPU is completed, we'll be moving on to bringing in the RAM sticks. It is a 2x8GB DDR4 kit and clocked at 3200 MHz. Lining it up, of course seeing the motherboard has a big notch and this one's smaller than the other. That's how you know that the RAM sticks will be slotted in the correct formation, even pressure. As for the second stick, do the same thing as we did to the first. Now that is completed, we're going to move on to the M.2 NVMe, which is a Kingston NV3 1TB drive. Bring in the screwdriver. Since this already has a standoff and everything, I don't have to put in a standoff. And your M.2 is secure. Now that this motherboard did not come with a CMOS battery, I ended up buying a pack from Bunnings. Wouldn't cost too much, it was $8 for I think about 10. We're going to be slotting this in. And yeah, your motherboard is completed and ready. So moving the motherboard to the side. Now we're going to be moving on to prepping the case for all the parts to go in. We have a buyer coming really soon for this build, which was featured in the previous episode of building budget gaming PCs for a profit. So right now, as you can see, the system is all up to date, all the drivers and all. So right now we're going to get into the packing process. Now that we've completed the motherboard prep, we're going to start getting PC case ready. By removing the 2 glass panels, and then we move to the back and remove the back panel. Now that the panels are off, now we're going to be moving on to assembling the motherboard to the case. Bring in the I/O shield. Now that the I/O shield is ready, bring in our prepped motherboard, inserting into the case. Making sure all these screw holes have mounts for the motherboard, which this side doesn't have a mounting. So we are going to pull out the motherboard, bring in the mounting screw, place in position where Now after doing so, sliding the motherboard back in place, making sure all the screw holes are aligned correctly, and then we screwed down all the screws. Which is AIO, only needed 1 bracket. Since the motherboard came pre-installed with the AMD standoff, what we're doing here, we got the appropriate bracket, then we aligned it up, turned it in a certain direction to lock it up in place. Now that is completed, we move back to the case. We lined up the AIO to the appropriate location where we wanted it, and the screw holes being aligned. We started screwing down 6 screws, hold the AIO in place. After doing so, we rerouted the wires to the back side of the panel, preparing it for the cable management. Next what we did, we applied thermal paste. Then we lined up the AIO to the mounting brackets of the motherboard. Now that we installed the AIO cooler, we'll be moving on to the power supply. We'll be starting off by organizing the wires, directing them to the right locations. Bringing in the power supplies, the Thermaltake light power RGB 550 watts. Align the power supply with 4 screw holes and screwing them down. Completed the power supply installation, we're going to be routing all the wires and plugging them in. We completed the front panel wiring, we're going to be moving on to preparing the cable extensions for the build. Now that the cable extensions are ready, we're going to be moving on back to the case to install the graphics card. Bring in the EVGA GeForce GTX 1660 Super with 6 GB of VRAM. Bring in the cable extensions. Bring in the motherboard power cable extension. Bring in the GPU power cable. Now that we've completed the front side of the case, we'll be moving to the back. So we ended up doing the cable management off camera, since maybe it was too much and maybe it will get boring. Now that we completed the build, you may be asking yourself, how much did this build really cost? Overall, the PC turned out amazing. With all the custom modifications, it really made the build stand out. Let's get into the breakdown of the cost. As you can see on the screen, the parts that were included in this build and all their individual prices, which this build came to a total of $655.82. But keep in mind, these parts, all of them are either brand new or refurbished. Considering those factors, the price I paid for is pretty much a steal. Now that we completed the breakdown of the build cost, the main question you may be asking, how does it really perform? So yes, I will be answering that question in this video. Next few clips will provide FPS numbers, multiple different games.
Targets are up, don't take them down. Objective Bravo 1 is ours. Fuck up. Trooper down! Officer down!
You might be the stupidest.
If you guys did enjoy the video, please like and subscribe, comment down below if you have any opinions or whatever the case may be. I'll be reading every single comment. And if you do want to see a full detailed video of the benchmarks of this gaming PC, it's already on the channel. Will be linked in the description down below. Hope you guys have a great day. Peace.